Okay, the chapter number 1 in the third unit, Sunrise on the Hills, written by H.W. Longfellow, the American poet. Let's know something about the poet. H.W. Longfellow, 1807 and 1882, was an influential American poet, translator, and professor at Harvard University during his lifetime. Longfellow was, during his lifetime, Longfellow was considered the best of all American poets. He was considered to be the best among all the American poets, and his work was widely translated and published in various other languages. The poem Sunrise on the Hills presents the experience of the poet as he watches the sunrise amidst the hills. So this poem gives us an experience that the poet had while the sun rises. He watches the sunrise sitting on a valley, sitting on a mountain, and what experience this we will have. So while going through the poem, we also feel the same as we are sitting in front of on a mountain range, or sitting on a valley nearby a brook and witnessing the sun rising. Okay, anyway, let's continue. Travel is in fact an eye-opener. There is no doubt it gives us so many information, right? It opens up new, refreshing snapshots before us and often helps us change our philosophy of life. So as a travels journey teach us so many things. Sometimes we will have to change our attitude towards life. It changes our philosophy of life. Now read the poem Sunrise on the Hills. Sunrise on the Hills, Part 1. I stood upon the hills when the heaven's wide arch was glorious with the sun's returning march. I, the poet, stood upon the hills. He was standing there on the hills when the heaven's wide arch, what is the arch? What is the wide arch of the heaven? It is the sky, right? The poet means the sky was glorious with the sun's returning march. So the sun comes every day and goes back. At night it goes, right? Again it comes back in the morning. So that's what the poet says, returning march. Understood? So while the sun returns the next morning, so it is the daybreak, right? So in the morning, while the sun comes out, you can see the sky glorious with its beautiful light. So here you can see the sun's returning march is an example for personification, because march means to walk, right? And it is the capacity, it is the quality of living things, and the poet here attribute the quality of living things to sun, which is a non-living thing. So it's an example for personification. And first of all, let me tell you, this poem has been divided into 3 parts, and the first part is abundant with visual images, and the second part is filled with auditory images, and in the third part it is very short, and the poet conveys a beautiful message. Okay, so here in this poem, the poet talks about the beauty of the daybreak. While you observe it standing on a valley, standing on a mountain, what are the things that feast your eyes? Right, what are the things that gives music to your ears? Those are the things that the poet discusses here. So as he says, I stood upon the hills when the heaven's wide arch was glorious with the sun's returning march. So as the sun, it is the time of daybreak, and the sun emerges, and you can see the sky, the wide arch of the sky of the heaven is glorious with its color. And woods were brightened. So while the rays of the sun followed the wood, it is brightened, and soft gales went forth to kiss the sun-clad vales. Soft gales, actually gales is said to be a kind of wind which is very powerful wind. Gales means very powerful wind, and here the poet says soft gales means soft wind actually. So it can be an example for oxymoron. Hope you had learned what is oxymoron, right? You have learned what oxymoron is, because in the poem The Leveler you have learned victor, victim, right? Oxymoron is 2 words having opposite meaning brought together, as in victor, victim. Here soft, we all know what does it mean, the word soft. What is the meaning of the word soft? And gales means powerful wind. How can a powerful wind be soft? It's not possible. So 2 words having opposite meaning brought together, so it's an example for oxymoron. Okay, when I tell all these things, you can mark it there in your textbook so that it will be easier for you when you read it next time. And you'll be asked to prepare appreciation, and these things that you note now will be of immense use for you. Okay, then soft gales went forth to kiss the sun-clad vales. So the wind, the gales went forth, advanced, went forward to kiss the sun-clad vales. Vales means valleys, clad means cloth. Sun-clad vales means the valleys that put on the cloth of sun. As the sun rises, it shed lights on the valleys, and the whole valley has been covered with the light of the sun. And now the wind, the soft wind, goes to kiss the sun-clad vales. The clouds were far beneath me. As he was standing on the hill, the clouds were far beneath him, and the bathed in light. So the clouds also were filled with light, bathed in light. They gathered midway round the wooded height. The cloud they gathered around the midway round the wooded height. Wooded height means the higher hills filled with woods, thick woods. So the hills that has been covered with woods, and the hills have been surrounded by the clouds, and they gathered midway, not too top, not in the bottom, midway. They covered the hills, wooded heights. Wooded heights means the hills covered with wood. They gathered midway around the wooded heights, and in their fading glory shone like hosts in a battle overthrown, and in their fading glory. So as the sun rises, do you think the cloud will remain forever? The fog, the mist that prevailed throughout the night, but once the sun started to emerge, the sunlight and the warm rays of the sun will demolish, right, will destroy the cloud. So, and in their fading glory, so as the sun comes up, they started to fade their glory. The cloud started to lose their glory, and they shone, they started to give light, like horse in a battle overthrown, just like people, just like an army defeated. When an army defeated in a war, what happens? They will withdraw, right? They will hold up, and they will come back. They will just run back. So as the sun started to rise, the sun rays started to fall over the clouds, and the clouds started to move away from the space, just like an army overthrown in a battle. So they started to run away. So here you can see an image where you can see sunrises and the valleys, a lot of trees. Understood? So that's how you can see fog surrounded the midway the hills, right? I just wanted to show you how beautiful it would be at the time of sunrise, to see from standing on a mountain, standing on a hill, how beautiful it will look like. So from this image, it is visible, somewhere it is visible, and the poet is very powerful, and his craftsmanship in writing this poem is very evident, that each and everything has been clearly depicted, pictured, right? We get a clear image of the scene, of the sight, and beautiful sounds and everything from the poem. Okay. As many a pinnacle with shifting glance through the grey mist thrust up in its shattered lands, as many a pinnacle means the top, the zenith of the topmost point of the hills, with shifting glances. It moves its glance while the cloud moves. Sometimes it is covered, sometimes it is seen with its shifting glance through the grey mist. The mist that has covered the hills. We can see through the grey mist thrust up its shattered lands. They thrust up, they penetrate their heads upside through the mist. So as the mist covered halfway, we can see the end, the pointed end of the trees outside. As you saw in the image, you can see the trees here. Once it is covered with fog here, you can see only the topmost part of the trees, just like lands, the pointed part of the lands, and all the other part will be covered, will be submerged by the cloud, right? That's what the poet means. So the trees looks like lances. Lance, it's a kind of weapon, long one, having a pointed edge. You have seen, right? Especially in war, people riding the horses will use it, right? Spear, you know, right? Spear, that's what we call lance. Okay. So through the grey mist, thrust up its shattered lance. So through the mist, it is grey in color, and they thrust up, they penetrate up its shattered lance. Lance means its pointed edge. And rocking on the cliff was left. The rocky part on the cliff was left, and it is just there, untouched by the sun. The dark pine blasted bare and cleft, and the dark pine, there were dark pine trees, they blasted bare and cleft, and they were demolished. Blasted means demolished. Actually there was darkness, but once the sun started to rise, the darkness has been removed, and cleft, there it has been broken. There have been a crack. Now the darkness is not that powerful, and the sunlight has made a gap in the darkness. The dark pine blasted bare and cleft. The veil of cloud was lifted slowly. The veil of the cloud, the curtain of the cloud was lifted, and below glowed the rich valley. So as the veil of the cloud was lifted, when the cloud was removed, we can see the glow, the rich valley. And then now we can see the rich valley, the beautiful valley, and the rivers flow. We can see the trees, the valleys, and the waterfalls, everything. Right, and the reverse flow was darkened by the forest shade. The rivers, we can see the rivers, but it has been darkened by the forest shade. So as the shadow of the forest fall on the river, it has been darkened. Or glistened in the white cascade. Sometimes it is glittering, right? In the white cascade, cascade means small waterfalls. So as the sun shines, as the sunshine falls over the cascade, it is glittering, where upward. In the mellow blush of day, the noisy bittern wheeled his spiral way. And at that place, the noisy bittern, it's a kind of bird. Bittern is a kind of bird. You can see the image there, right? The bittern made her spiral way upward. The bird making a spiral flying here and there. She makes her way spiral upward, where upward in the mellow blush of day. Mellow blush means light blush color, some kind of red, pink color of the sky. In that pink color of the sky, the bittern, the noisy bittern, the bittern making noise, made her spiral way. She started to fly here and there in a spiral way. Okay, so here the poet explains a lot of visual images, the way that it flies, the way the clouds retreats, right? The cloud retreats from the war, and the sight of the waterfall, and the sight of the trees covered with fog, and so many visual images are there in the first part, right? And you can see the poet has used figures of speech like personification. I already told you personification, and he has used simile also. You must have seen here, like hosts in battle overthrown. Here the poet uses simile, because you know what is simile, right? When something is compared to some other thing using the word like, it is called simile. Here the retreating of the cloud, and in their fading glory shone like host in the batting field overthrown. So here the retreating of the cloud has been compared to an army defeated, right? So when an army is defeated, they run for their life together, right? So if someone looks at them from distance, they can see a dark color moving somewhere, right? When they are running together to some particular direction in a group, it looks like that, right? And the same way, when the cloud moves from one part to the other, it is just like an army defeated, retreating from its battlefield, and it is a beautiful example for simile, right? Okay. And the noisy bittern wheeled her spiral way. Then she flies, making her way just like a spiral pattern. Okay. And here you have got some glossary, some word meaning. Bittern, a small speckled bird of the heron family. You had seen the image there. Found in North America. Bittern is found in North America. Cascade means a small waterfall. cliff, a high area of rock with a very steep side, often on a coast. Cliff means the rock that goes upward, especially in a coastal area. That the one that you had learned in the chapter, his first flight. It is a cliff, right? And lands, a very long, thin-pointed weapon used in the past by soldiers on horses. Just like spear, I told you, a long one having a pointed edge. Here, the sharp pointed top of hills, rocks. Here the poet, by lands, the poet means the sharp pointed edge, pointed top of hills that thrustingly comes up outside from the cloud, right? Only the top part was seen, and all the other part has been covered by the fog. So it looks like some lances. Okay, wooded means covered with trees. Wooded height, you have seen the expression there. Wooded height means the height, the high part of the land that has been covered with wood. Okay, let's go to the second part. Sunrise on the Hill, part 2. I heard the distant waters dash. So in the beginning itself, I told you the second part is full, mostly found auditory images. In the first part, we found a lot of visual images, and here you will find a lot of auditory image. Right? Hope you understand what is visual image and what is auditory image. Visual image means the image that we can see in our mind. While we read that line, we can see the image in our mind. Right? While reading the cascade, we can see the image in our mind, right? The bittern making her spiral way. We can see the image in our mind, the bird flying in that way, right? So it is full of visual images, the first stanza, so we can see that image in our mind. And here it is full of auditory image. Auditory image means image which appeals our sense of hearing. It talks about some voices that we can feel the sound, right? So I heard the distant water dash. I heard the sound of waterfalls. Water dash means water moves with fast. I saw the current whirl and flash. I saw the current whirl. Whirl means going round, right? Whirl and flash, move forward. Then for all this, you can hear sound also, right? Waterfall and the movement of the water also give us, there will be sound. And richly by the blue lake's silver beach. And by the blue lake's silver beach. Why is it called silver? Because there is sand which is silver in color. And richly by the blue lake's silver beach, the woods were bending with a silent reach. And there were so many woods, so many trees, and they were trying to touch the floor, bending their backs. Right? The woods were bending with a silent reach. They were bending and trying to reach the floor. Then over the vale with gentle swell, then over the valley, vale means valley, over the valley with gentle swell, slowly, it started to swell, feel something, gentle swell, the music of the village bell. So the village bell, the music from distant village bell started to fill the valley. The music of the village bell, so it's also an auditory image, right? Came sweetly into the echo-giving hill. So that music of the bell, village bell, came sweetly to the echo-giving hill. So in the hill, at some particular places, we can find it echoing, right? Echo point, you must have gone, right? Visited. So when you produce some kind of voice, the voice will echo, the place will produce the echo of the sound. And just like that, the voice of the bell, the music of the village bell came to the valley to produce its echo, came sweetly to the echo-giving hills. Yes. And the wild horn, whose voice the woodland fills, was ringing to the merry shout that faint and far the glen sent out, were answering to the sudden short thin smoke through thick-leaved branches from the dingle brook. And the wild horn, it's also a kind of bird, right? It's said to be a kind of owl or a kind of billhorn or something like that, an American bird. And the wild horn, whose voice the woodland fills, and its voice fills the whole land, whole woodland, was ringing to the merry shout. And the bird was ringing as a response to the merry shout she heard. She heard some kind of shouting from somewhere, and her voice was a response to that sound. That faint and far the glen sent out. The merry shout, it is faint and far. The sound was faint. It was not that clear, and it was from far away, and the glen sent out. Glen means the valley. The valley sent out this voice, and This bird was ringing in response to the sound that's sent by the glen, were answering to the sudden short thin smoke through thick-leaved branches from the dingle brook. And the sound that the glen sent out was answering to the sudden short thin smoke. It was because there was smoke or fog, right? Thin smoke through the thick-leaved branches, the branches of trees, and it has been thick-leaved. It is thick-leaved, and from the dingle brook. Dingle means the valley covered with lots of trees. So from the valley covered with a lot of trees, and through the thick-leaved branches, some kind of fog, some kind of smoke comes outside, and in response, answering to the presence of the smoke, the glen sends some kind of shout, some kind of merry shout, and in response to this sound, the wild horn makes noise. Understood? So each sound produced in the valley at the time of sunrise has been mentioned here. If thou art worn and heart beset with sorrows that thou wouldst forget, if thou wouldst read a lesson that will keep thy heart from fainting and thy soul from sleep, go to the woods and hills. No tears dim the sweet look that nature wears. So this is the third part of the poem. The first and second we already discussed. In the first part, we have seen so many visual images, and the beauty has been depicted elaborately. And in the second part, mostly we have listened to the voices that the valley produces. And here in the third part, it is comparatively a short part. And here the poet tries to give us an advice, a piece of advice. If thou art worn, if you are tired, art means are. If you, thou means you. Thou means you, art means are. If you are worn, means tired, and heart beset, you have been affected something badly, something has affected you very badly, and if you are not good, if you are not healthy, mentally happy, right, with sorrows that thou wouldst forget, and you have some sorrows that you wanted to forget, that you would forget, if thou would read a lesson, and you want to read a lesson, you would read a lesson that will keep thy heart from, thy means your, that will keep your heart from fainting and thy soul from sleep. So something has happened to you, you are not that happy, you are gloomy, something has befallen on you, something came, some bad omen, something that is not favorable happened to you, then you wanted to forget, you would forget. And if you would read a lesson, if you would read a lesson, you would forget all these sorrows. You would forget all the things that happened to you if you would read a lesson that will keep your heart from fainting, from failing, from stop working, right? And thy soul from sleep. So there is a medicine, there is something, a treatment there for all these pressures, for all the problems that you face. You have to do just one thing: go to the woods, go to the nature, go to the trees and hills, go to the woods and hills and observe it, watch it. The nature has the power of healing. The nature can cure you. Whatever ailment you have, whatever sickness you have, the nature has the power to heal your problems. No tears dim the sweet look that nature wears. So whatever problem you have, whatever sorrow you are going through, all this sorrow will be removed from your heart just by having a look at the beautiful nature. So visit the nature, go to the woods, go to the hills, and no tears dim the sweet look. No tears can cover, no tears can conceal the beautiful look that the nature wears. Right. So through this last part, it is a very important part of the poem too. Right. The nature has the healing power. It has the power to rejuvenate our mind. It has the power to motivate us. It has the power to inspire us. Right. And even it treats our ailments too. So from the first two stanzas, it is not clear that what is the mood of the poet. Right. He merely explains the sights and the sounds that he witnessed there in the mountain. And here, in the third stanza, we find that the poet was not that happy. There was something which worried his thought, which bothered him. And now he says that by having a look at the beauty of the nature, we can forget all our worries. That's all the poem. Hope you understood and enjoyed. Read the poem thoroughly, listening to the answer and listening to the meaning. If you find it difficult, if you find it a bit hard to understand, watch the video again and it will be easy for you. Okay, we will have some more discussion regarding this chapter. This or the glossary, you can find it there behind your text. Right, review of the poem Sunrise on Hill. We will have a small review. The poem Sunrise on the Hill is a didactic poem by the famous American romantic H.W. Longfellow. It's a didactic poem. You already know what is didactic poem. Didactic poem means a poem that teaches us something, some valuable thing, right? It says if a person is fed up with hectic life and cannot concentrate on one's routine works, fed up with the life here in this world, and spending some time with nature will solve all his worries. As I said in the last stanza, also whatever maybe your issues can be solved by the nature. It is a subjective poem in which the speaker shares his own feelings and perception. He shares just his feelings. The poem makes use of several poetic devices. The poem abounds in images. So many images you can find. The prominent one is the use of military image to highlight the paradox in the poem. So the best image is the prominent one is the use of military image, the withdrawal, the retreat of the cloud, right? The retreat of the cloud has been compared to a military soldiers retreating from a battlefield, right? You remember that when the sun comes out, the cloud moves away just like a retreating army. So the soldier, the image of the soldier is the prominent one is the use of military image to highlight the paradox in the poem. And actually it is a paradox too. Here we say, towards the end of the poem, we say we can find peace, happiness, everything in nature. And at the same time, the poet compares it to a battlefield, right? In nature, there is a peace, solace, calmness. And at the same time, he compares the nature to a battlefield from where an army retreats and another army, the sun, is an army defeating the others. So it is compared to a battlefield. So it is a paradox, right? Okay, the first stanza abounds in visual imagery, whereas the second has numerous auditory images. Ent, rhyme, and alliteration used in the poem enhance its lyrical quality. So you can see the beautifully rhyming words have been used, rhyme scheme you can see, and you can alliteration have been used. So many alliterations have been used there in the poem. It employs poetic devices like oxymoron. I told you, soft gales. Soft is not appropriately explained gales. Gales means powerful wind, and soft is something soft, right? So gentle and soft. So it is an example for oxymoron. The speaker resorted to nature when he had tough time and exhorts us to do the same when we confront with difficulties in life. He seeks shelter in nature when he faces something difficulty, something disturbing his mind. The paradox lies in the fact that the nature forces are active and powerful, but at the same time submissive to mightier forces. Right? Nature has power, and at the same time, when mightier forces come, it is submissive. That's what we saw, right? At night, it was ruled by the cloud and mist. The whole valley has been ruled by the mist. But in the morning, once the sun came out, they retreated. So that's it. The paradox lies in the fact that the nature forces are active and powerful, but at the same time submissive to mightier force. When powerful forces come, they are submissive. So when sunlight came, the cloud withdrew. Okay. Title of the poem, how the title suits to the poem. The poet watches sunrise from the top of a hill. He observes the changes that occur in the nature as the sun rises. So he observes what changes take place. The poem presents a number of visual and auditory images to speak about the coming of day, putting an end to the dark and silent night. Right. The poem gives so many visual and auditory images, and it talks about the coming of the day, putting an end to the dark and silent night. A common childhood observation, imagination, is voraciously painted in this poem. So just like a small child, the poet observes the sights, and he has been elaborately explained, pictured the sight through his words. The speaker sees nature as a source of inspiration, a cure, and an ultimate solution. He says there is a cure, solution, and inspiration in nature. The speaker realizes that grace Grace of sunrise conquers the glory of all other natural powers, right? The grace of sunrise is something more powerful than any other thing that conquers the glory of all other natural powers. Sun is a symbol, removes darkness and taints. Sun is just a symbol that removes darkness and it brings out, it unveils the beauty of things. Mood and tone of the poem. What is the mood and tone of the poem? There is no obvious mention about his mood in the first two stanzas. So when we read the first two stanzas, we do not get any clue about his mood. But from the last stanza, it's clear that the speaker is not very comfortable. So from the last stanza, it's understandable that the poet is not very comfortable. He might be fed up with disturbing thoughts that he cannot concentrate on his activities. So from the last stanza, it can be understood that there is something that disturbs his mind. Toward the end of the poem, the speaker advises us to do the same when we are fed up with life. He asks us to do the same. If you are fed up with life, just visit some places and observe the beauty of the nature and get yourself cured. Nature has the power to rejuvenate. The speaker appears to be didactic in tone. So in the last stanza, we can understand he is trying to advise us, right? So it is a didactic poem. Poetic devices. A lot of poetic devices are the use of symbols like sun, forest, bittern, screech, right? Sun makes all sides visible and it removes all sadness and darkness. So it's a symbol, right? Symbol highlights hidden beauty and treasures. It brings out the beauty of things. Military image, auditory image, visual, so many images. Military is a part of visual image, right? Auditory images are the kinesthetic image, means something that depicts the movement, the flowing of the water, the falling of the cascade, the movement of the bird, right? The rising of the smoke. So the movement, when the poet talks about the movements, it's said to be the kinesthetic image. So three types of image you have learned from this poem. Visual image, you already know that, something that appeals out the sense of sight, right? That is visual image. Auditory image, something that appeals our sense of hearing, and kinesthetic image means something that moves, right? Something that talk about the movements of things. Okay, heaven's wide arch is a metaphor for, right? Heaven's wide arch is a metaphor for horizon. So here the poet compares the sky to an arch, right? The clouds. Sun's returning march is military image. The clouds shone like hosts in a battle overthrown is simile. I told you, right? Like, the poet used the word like, so it's an example for simile. Wheel of cloud. Wheel of cloud is also an example for what? Wheel of cloud is an example for metaphor, because the cloud has been compared to wheel without using the word like or as, so it's an example for metaphor. Didactic elements in the poem. What are the didactic elements? A pensive speaker explores nature to ease his personal worries and realizes that all his troubles are universal. His reflection teaches us that, right? So the poet explores nature to ease his pains, his personal worries, and he realizes, he understands that all his troubles are universal. It's not just his trouble. These troubles can happen to anyone, and his reflections teach us that observing nature will help one forget his tension and change one's mood. So it is the first lesson that he tries to teach us. So by observing the nature, we can forget our tension and change our mood. Moreover, there are several interesting and rejuvenating things around nature. Not just that, there are so many things which can rejuvenate, which can instill so many forces, powers in you, diversity of resources. Even a common sight gives one a lot of information. Just as common sight, if you just have a look at the nature, a sight that you usually watch, and still that sight is capable of giving you so many information. The quench to conquer and outshine is natural instinct, right? The thirst to win, the thirst to overpower, the quench to conquer and outshine is natural instinct. That was what we saw while the sun came. It started to conquer the clouds, right? Everybody has unique appeal, but their glory subsides when stronger ones appear. So everybody has his own power, right? But they lose their glory. Their glory subsides, fades when stronger ones come, right? Nature has the power to rejuvenate. Troubles are natural, internal nature, not external nature can suit one, right? Nature has the power to rejuvenate, but it is not the external nature, but the internal nature that can soothe one. So there is no use if you have a beautiful sight around you, if you can't enjoy it. You should have the heart to understand, the heart to enjoy the nature. So the beauty inside is more relevant than the beauty outside, right? So if you have in the heart to enjoy whatever there is outside, you can't find happiness. At the same time, if you have a heart inside which having an aesthetic sense, having an aesthetic taste, then only you can find happiness in nature. Okay, that's all from this chapter. Hope you understood. As I told you, go through the lines of the poem again and again and understand, try to understand each and every line, every word of the poem. Okay, and try yourself to create, to attempt an appreciation of the poem. Okay, anyway, we wind up it here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.